Hey friends, I have 3 all new primitive farmhouse DIYs for you. Today's video is all about pumpkins, so come craft with me. I'm Sarah and welcome to my channel Primroselaneprims. If you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me in the future. And now let's get to these pumpkin DIYs. For this DIY, I'm going to be upcycling this old sweater that used to be my husband's. It had some holes ripped and some of the seams, the zipper was busted. It was too big for him, definitely seen better days, and it really wasn't fit for donating. So I thought, hey, let's upcycle this into some fall pumpkins. So I'm going to start by cutting off the sleeves of this. For this project, I'm going to be using the sleeves only, and then I'll save the rest of the sweater for another project another time. And I'm just going to cut these off right here where the sleeves meet the body of the sweater. Once I have my sleeves cut out, I'm going to turn them inside out. Now here where the sleeve met the body of the sweater, that's going to be the bottom of our pumpkin. And we're going to want to tie it off. And I'm going to be using some 4-ply jute twine that I get from Walmart here. And I'm going to tie it in a really tight knot here around the base of my sweater sleeve. I'm going to wrap it around and then tie it in a knot a second time. We want this nice and tight because we don't want our pumpkin coming apart at any point in the stuffing coming out. And be sure to tie these off above where they attach to the main body of the sweater. You want to give them at least an inch above that, so that way there's no slippage of the material and at any point your stuffing pops out the bottom. Once you have these tied off, just turn them back the right side. And all that excess material and the excess twine that's hanging there, that's just gonna work as kind of built-in filler for us. Kind of stick your hand down in there and try to flatten them out as much as you can. There will be a little bit of wrinkles there at the bottom where it was gathered together, and that's to be expected. Next, we're going to want to stuff our pumpkins, and to stuff our pumpkins, I'm going to be using these plastic shopping bags because, well, they're free, and I always have tons of them laying around, and it's a great way to upcycle plastic shopping bags. You could also use polyfill stuffing or pillow stuffing here if you wanted to, but like I said, I like to upcycle plastic bags by using the stuffing for projects. They work perfect, and you can't beat the price. I mean, who doesn't like free craft products? Now you just want to stuff these for however big you want your pumpkins. I want these to be larger pumpkins, so I'm going to stuff them pretty full here, as you can see. If you wanted to make smaller pumpkins, you could easily cut these sleeves in half and make 2 small pumpkins instead of 1 big one. And when you get your plastic bags or your stuffing in, just kind of shape them. Plastic bags in particular, they actually shape really well when you make these pumpkins. You can kind of mold them and squish them around, and they hold their shape really well. Once you get your pumpkins stuffed to your liking, I'm going to take our jute twine here and we're going to tie off the top really tight. And I'm going to pull my material up here. Once I tie this once, I'm going to pull it up and pull up any excess material. I don't want any baggy hanging material down in the body of our pumpkin. Just tie that in a tight knot. And then this extra tail here, and instead of cutting that off, I'm going to add a little hot glue and I'm going to wrap it around here. We're going to use that as part of our stem. So now to finish making our stem, just take your jute twine and just start wrapping it and hot gluing it around that excess material that's sticking out the top. You can make your stem as long or as short as you like, whatever's your personal preference. I'm going to make mine approximately 2 inches. I'm just going to wrap it in hot glue at about 2 inches up. Once you get your stem to the length of your liking, just take and cut off any of the excess fabric. Just give it a little bit of a flat top cut here. You can see some of my plastic bag was still sticking out. Just push that back down there if that happens. And I want to make sure here, make sure all of my jute twine is pushed together nice and tight there before I continue. And then I'm going to continue hot gluing and wrapping it around till I reach the top of my fabric. And then I'm just going to hot glue it and keep hot gluing inwards until I'm on the top and coil it all the way around till the entire top is covered. I hope that made sense. So hot glue it to the top and then just keep slowly working inwards until the entire top is covered. And here's what it'll look like all done. I'm going to shape my pumpkin a little bit here. Squish those bags around until get it the way I like it. Now to embellish the tops, I'm going to be taking these burlap leaves. These are from the Dollar Tree and they come in a variety of colors. And I'm going to be using one of the orange colored leaves and one of the just brown burlap colored leaves. And these leaves have a wire stem already attached to them. And I'm just going to take that wire and wrap it around the base of my pumpkin stem to secure it on there. Next, I'm going to go in with some Spanish moss because I love using Spanish moss on fall projects in particular. I just think it always gives such a nice rustic feel to the project. And I'm going to just take it and hot glue it around the base of my pumpkin stem here. Next, I'm going to take this wired pip berries. This is also from the Dollar Tree. This has a burnt orange pip berry and a dark red, maroonish colored pip berry on it. And I'm going to use this as my pumpkin tendrils. So I'm just going to take and wrap it around the base, and I'm going to leave a rather long tail because I will be coiling that at the end for our pumpkin tendrils. And then I'm going to wrap it around my pumpkin stem a couple times. Then cut off another long tail here, and then bread twist tying the long tails in the back to secure them. Bread twist tie. Got a little tongue tied there. Bread twist tie, twist tie, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Anyways. Then I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm just going to coil my little wire here around it to make my pumpkin tendrils. And I'll do the same thing with my other, just wrap it around, leaving a nice long tail, twisting it around my pumpkin stem a couple times. Cutting off another long tail and twist tying the two tails to secure it, and then coiling the ends. And here these are such a fun and budget-friendly fall DIY, and I absolutely love how they turned out. It's a great way to upcycle plastic bags as well as old sweaters, and they turn out so cute. For this DIY, we are going to be making some drop cloth pumpkins. Now, this is just a regular drop cloth that you can pick up at any hardware store or even Amazon. And I'm going to double my drop cloth over, and I'm just going to cut out 2 rectangles. And if your rectangles aren't perfect, that's absolutely okay. These are primitive rustic pumpkins, so that just adds to the charm a little bit. My second rectangle, I'm going to actually make a little bit smaller than my first. I want there to be a little bit of height difference between these 2 pumpkins. And once they're cut out, I'm going to take and just cut apart that bottom there where they were doubled over, the fabric's doubled over. And I was working with the edge of my drop cloth, so it has this thicker edge here, but I want to make my edges frayed. So I'm going to just trim off that edge. And then I'm just going to slightly round these corners. And like I said, if they're not 100% symmetrical, that's okay. It just adds to that primitive rustic charm. And find this little edge here. It wasn't quite even. I just had to trim it up and cut off more of that thicker edging that was around mine. Now, to attach these together, I'm going to be using hot glue, and I want to put my hot glue, I want to leave a little bit of room between the edge and where I'm putting my glue, because like I said, we're going to fray these edges, so we don't want the hot glue to go right to the edge. I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch and just hot glue around and press this together really well. If you have a sewing machine and you sew, you could also sew these. That would be perfect. I just like to show an alternative to sewing for those who maybe don't have sewing machines, don't know how to sew, because you can still make gorgeous primitive crafts without a sewing machine. Be sure to leave the top part of your pumpkin open so that we can stuff it here and add a stem. We don't want to close it up completely just yet. If you're enjoying this video so far, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, and if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button so that you can craft with me in the future. So as you can see, I have this little bit of gapping edging here, and I'll be going through at the end and just pulling off some of these strands so that my edges are frayed. And I'm not going to fray this whole thing right now. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what they'll look like and why we want to leave that little bit of gap between the hot glue and the edge. Now we need to stuff our pumpkins, and I'm once again going to be using these plastic shopping bags. You could use polyfill stuffing or pillow stuffing if you wanted to, but like I said, these plastic bags work great. They're free and a great way to upcycle them. We don't want to overstuff. I just want to give these a little bit of dimension. Now, once you have your pumpkin stuffed to the top, we want to add a stem. And for a stem, I'm going to be using a cinnamon stick. You could also use a stick from your yard. Just put it right down in your pumpkin and then finish hot gluing and securing down the top. And I'm going to flip it over and add a little more hot glue to that stem on the back and make sure that's glued in there really good. We don't want it to slip out later. Next, I'm going to take some of this black and gingham homespun fabric, and I'm just going to rip a nice big strip off here. You could use whatever ribbon or fabric of your choice, whatever suits your decor, but I really like this black and cream gingham for fall. And I ripped this kind of thick, as you can see, and not exactly even either, but I'm just going to rip this in half again because I'm going to be using this ribbon to make a couple of bows. And I'm just going to tie a simple shoestring bow out of my fabric. It's a little bit of a floppy bow, and I want my tails to stay nice and long to hang down the front of my pumpkin. Now before I attach my bows, I'm going to go back in with a little bit of my Spanish moss, and I'm just going to hot glue it around the base of my pumpkin stem here. Then I'm just going to hot glue my bow right to the base of my cinnamon stick on top of my Spanish moss and let those tails hang down the front. To finish these pumpkins off, I'm going to be taking these rusty stars. You can find them on Factory Direct or Amazon, and I'm just going to hot glue these right into the center of my bow. Now that my pumpkin's together, I'll go back through and frame my edges, and to do that, I'm just going to take my fingernails and just pull off a few strands of the fabric and kind of rough it up to give it that nice frayed edge. Strings pull off pretty easy on this drop cloth. And if you get a big chunk of your strings there that don't want to pull off completely, just give them a little trim. I don't want strings hanging off of it, I just want the edges frayed. And here these are, I think they're so stinking cute. Add them to a shelf just to add some really pretty rustic charm to your home this fall. For this last pumpkin DIY, I'm going to be using one of these styrofoam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, and you can just go ahead and remove that stem and toss it aside because we're not going to be using that for this. And if you saw back in July, I made little rag balls, and this is going to be very similar, kind of a rag ball pumpkin. And I'll be using 3 types of fabric, 2 patterned homespun, and then a solid color. And you can pick any colors or fabrics of your choosing, whatever fits your decor, whatever speaks to you. You just want your colors to all kind of blend together, whatever fabrics you use. And my 2 homespun fabrics, my 2 pattern fabrics, they came already pre-cut, but my solid one wasn't, so I had to rip some strips of it. And I'm going to start off by hot gluing one of my patterned fabrics to the edge of where the stem went, down along and back up the other side. And I will note that I didn't show it on camera, but I did make the hole where the stem went, and I made it a little bit bigger because I want to tack a little bit of the edge of the fabric right down to it. And I wanted a place to add the new stem here at just a few minutes. So I start with a pattern, and then I'm going to go in with a solid. I'm going to want my fabrics to just overlap slightly. Just wrap it around, crisscross on the bottom, and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue on the bottom too to secure it, to make sure my fabric stays nice and tight and doesn't slip out of place. Back up around, and then hot glue it back down in the center. And this fabric, it has a lot of strings. I keep having to pull them off to get them out of the ways. I think I definitely have to give it a haircut at the end. Next, I'm going to go with my second patterned fabric and repeat the process. So then I'm going to follow this up with another piece of the solid fabric. So you're going to go pattern, solid, and just continue that pattern all the way around until your pumpkin's completely covered. And you could even just use one individual pattern and instead of two different patterned fabrics. You could really, really play around with this and make it your own. So now that I got my pumpkin covered, as you can see, I'm going to have to go back in and give this the haircut I talked about earlier because these strings on this homespun fabric is just everywhere. And I don't mind a little bit of strings, but that was just a little much. But here's what it looks like once it's all completely covered. Now we want to add a stem, and I'm going to be using a cinnamon stick for my stem. You could also use a just stick from your yard or even some of those little bags of the pre-cut stems that you can find at the Dollar Tree, the little pre-cut wood back in the crafter section. And I'm just going to hot glue around the base of my cinnamon stick here just to secure it in. Next, for my pumpkin tendrils, I'm just going to take this rusted wire and I'm going to wrap it around my cinnamon stick and coil my wire around my little Sharpie marker here to give my little pumpkin tendrils their shape. And I'm also just going to add a little bit of hot glue there to the base of the wire just to secure it down, extra security. Now to finish this pumpkin off, I'm going to go in with, once again, my Spanish moss, and I'm going to hot glue it around the base of my cinnamon stick and all over the top of my pumpkin. And here is our little primitive ragdoll pumpkin. I absolutely love how these turned out. You never know, that originally started out as one of those little styrofoam Dollar Tree pumpkins. Leave me a comment and let me know which of today's pumpkins were your favorite. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's DIYs. If you did, I hope you consider giving this video a like, maybe sharing it with your friends. And if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and crafting with me in the future. Also, if you hit that notification bell, YouTube will notify you every time I upload a video so you don't miss out on any future fun, budget-friendly DIYs for around the home. So until next time, happy crafting, friends.